Got a message in the community last week. Somebody running a solo dev shop, 8 clients, decent retainer revenue, and the question was basically this. Jordan, I get 60 to 80 emails a day across 3 inboxes. Half of them need action. I want AI to sort and route them, but I'm terrified it's going to auto-reply to a cancellation notice or send a sales lead to the spam folder. How do I make this safe? And I sat with that for a minute because, yeah, that's the right fear. That is exactly the fear you should have. Because here's what actually happens when people try to automate their inbox without guardrails. They wire up a Zap or a Make scenario, they connect GPT-4o, they tell it to classify and route, and it works great for about a week. Then a client sends an email with the word cancellation in the subject line, except they're asking about a cancellation policy for their customer, not canceling your service, and the model routes it to your churn queue. Or worse, fires an automated save offer to someone who wasn't leaving. I had this happen. Not with email, with a Slack intake bot I built for a client last year. The bot was classifying inbound messages and routing them to channels. Worked beautifully until someone posted, "I need to discuss the legal implications of our new feature." The model saw legal and routed it to the legal hold queue. Triggered an escalation. The client's ops manager got a Slack alert at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday about a legal matter that was a product question. That's a confidence problem, and it's solvable, but only if you build the safety layer first, before you build the routing. If you're running any kind of inbound, client emails, lead forms, support requests, and you don't have a confidence threshold between your AI and the action it takes, you are one misclassified email away from losing a client you spent months earning. Not because the AI is bad, because you gave it authority without giving it a boundary. Today, I'm building the pattern that fixes this. Extract, classify, route, with a hard confidence gate and a deterministic human review fallback for anything the model isn't sure about. I'll show it in Make, in Zapier, and in N8N. Same pattern, 3 platforms. By the end, you'll have a production-grade AI email triage system that handles 80 to 90% of your inbox zero touch and sends the rest to a queue you actually check. So the first thing you need to understand about AI email triage, and this tripped me up for months, is that the bottleneck is not the model. GPT-4o can classify an email in under 2 seconds. Claude can do it faster. The bottleneck is your email provider. Gmail gives you 15,000 quota units per user per minute. That sounds like a lot until you realize that every messages.get call costs 5 units, and every messages.send costs 100. So if your triage workflow reads a message, classifies it, and sends a response, that's 105 units per email minimum. At that rate, you can process about 140 emails per minute before Gmail starts throwing 429s. And here's the nasty part. As of this month, Google's own docs say the 429 signal on the send pipeline can lag by several minutes. So you blow past the limit, keep sending, and don't find out you're over quota until you've already stacked up a bunch of failed sends. Ask me how I know. Outlook is worse. Exchange Online caps you at 30 messages per minute per mailbox. 30. And 10,000 recipients per day. Microsoft Graph will return a 429 with a retry after header, and unlike Gmail, the correct behavior is dead simple. You wait exactly the number of seconds in that header. You don't guess. You don't retry immediately. You wait. If you get another 429, you wait again. Microsoft's docs are explicit about this, so the architecture has to account for this from the start. You're not building a fast classifier. You're building a queue-aware routing system that respects provider throughput limits and only lets the AI make decisions when it's confident enough to be trusted. Here's the pattern. Every email hits 3 stages. Stage 1, extract. The model reads the email and outputs structured JSON, not free-form text, not a summary. A strict schema with fields your router depends on. Sender, subject, intent classification, entity extraction, and a confidence score between 0 and 1. Stage 2. Classify and gate. If the confidence score is above your threshold, I start at 0.78 and tune from there, and no hard override rules have fired, the email gets auto-routed. If the score is below threshold, or if the schema validation fails, or if the email contains high-risk keywords, cancellation, refund, legal hold, breach, chargeback, it goes straight to a human review queue. No exceptions. No, well, the model was pretty sure. Below the line means a human looks at it. That last part is non-negotiable. Billing emails, cancellation emails, anything with legal language, those bypass the confidence gate entirely. Deterministic override. I don't care if the model returns a 0.99 confidence score on a cancellation email. A human reviews it, period. Stage 3. Route. Sales leads go to your CRM. Support requests go to your ticketing tool. Meeting requests go to your calendar. Newsletters get archived. Spam gets marked. And anything the model can't classify with confidence lands in a Notion or Airtable table called Needs Human, where you review it on your own schedule. Let me walk through the Gmail path in Make first, because it's the one most of you are running. You start with a Gmail watch trigger, or, if you want more control, a scheduled list plus get loop. The watch trigger is cleaner but costs 100 units per activation. The list plus get approach costs 10 units total, 5 for the list, 5 for the get. But you're polling, which means latency. Either way, the email body hits an OpenAI module configured for structured output. You paste in a JSON schema, and I've got one ready for you in the show notes, the Intake Desk Starter Pack, that forces the model to return exactly the fields you need: intent, confidence, entities, risk flags. If the output doesn't validate against the schema, the scenario routes it to human review automatically. That's your first safety net. Then you hit a Make Router module. One path for auto route, confidence above your threshold, no overrides triggered. One path for human review, everything else. The auto route path branches again by intent: CRM for leads, ticketing for support, archive for newsletters. The human review path appends a row to your Needs Human table with the full extraction payload and a link back to the original thread. Oh, and here's something I almost forgot. You need to cap your model's token output. GPT-4o supports 16,000 output tokens. You do not need 16,000 output tokens for email classification. Set max output to 256, maybe 512 if your emails are long. This keeps latency under 2 to 3 seconds per message and stops you from burning through your token per minute limits on OpenAI's side. That's a separate rate limit from Gmail's, and it'll bite you if you're processing a batch. Zapier path for Outlook users. Same pattern, different plumbing. Your trigger is a new email in Outlook via Microsoft Graph. The email body goes to an OpenAI or Claude step. Same structured output schema. Then you use Zapier paths to branch. Path A, confidence above threshold, no risk flags. Route to CRM, ticketing, calendar, whatever. Path B, below threshold or risk flags present. Push to a Zapier table or Airtable row for human review. The critical difference here is the throttle. Exchange Online's 30 messages per minute cap means if your triage workflow sends any replies or forwards, you need to pace those sends. In Zapier, the simplest approach is a delay step before any send action. Even a 60-second delay smooths out bursts. And if you get a 429 from Graph, Zapier's built-in retry will handle it, but you should still log the retry after value so you can see if you're consistently hitting the ceiling. N8N gives you the most control. IMAP trigger, or Gmail or Graph nodes if you prefer. The email feeds into an OpenAI node, or Claude or Gemini, with response format set to JSON. Then an if node checks schema validity. If valid, a switch node branches on confidence and intent. If invalid, straight to the human queue. There's actually a solid community template for this. Someone on the N8N subreddit published an AI email triage workflow that auto-labels and routes, and they reported saving 5+ hours a week. The node layout is clean. I'd use it as a starting canvas and add the confidence gate and the deterministic overrides on top. The N8N advantage is that you can wire in exponential backoff natively using a function node. For Gmail, That means truncated exponential backoff with jitter, Google's own recommendation. You wait 2 to the n seconds, plus a random millisecond offset, capped at 64 seconds. For graph, you parse the retry after header from the 429 response and wait exactly that long. Different providers, different retry logic. Don't treat them the same. Okay, now, the honest part. LLM confidence scores are not calibrated. When GPT-4o says it's 0.85 confident, that does not mean it's right 85% of the time. The number is a self-reported score, and it can shift based on prompt wording, input length, even the order of your schema fields. There's active research on this, uncertainty-aware routing, calibration methods, but none of it is production settled yet. So, can you actually trust the score? Not blindly, no, but you don't have to trust it blindly. You trust it within bounds. Here's what that looks like in practice. You take 200 historical emails, ones you've already classified manually. You run them through your model without acting on the output. You plot confidence versus accuracy, and you find the threshold where accuracy hits your target. 95%, 98%, whatever your risk tolerance is. For most solo operators processing client email, I've found 0.78 is a reasonable starting point. You'll auto-route about 80% of traffic and manually review the rest. Then you maintain a canary set. 20 emails you rerun monthly to check for drift. If accuracy drops, you lower the threshold or retune the prompt. And you log everything. Every confidence score, every route decision, every override that fired. That log is your proof that the system is working. It's also your early warning when it stops. Speaking of logging, every run should write to a central log table. Provider, mailbox, intent classification, confidence score, route taken, tokens in, tokens out, latency in milliseconds, and any retry after or backoff values from the provider. If you built the universal run log from episode 2, this is just another row in that same Notion database. And wire up a Slack alert for human review items. Not for every email, just the ones that need your eyes. The Intake Desk starter pack on the resources page includes a block kit payload you can paste into a Slack webhook. It shows the sender, the excerpt, the confidence score, the route decision, and 2 buttons. Approve the auto route or send to human review. Takes roughly 12 minutes to wire up in any of the 3 platforms. So, back to that community question. How do I make this safe? The answer is you don't make the AI safe. You make the system safe. The model classifies. The confidence gate decides whether to trust it. The deterministic overrides catch the stuff you never want automated. Billing, cancellation, legal, anything with real consequences. And the human review queue catches everything else the model isn't sure about. That's the whole architecture. Extract, classify, route, with a boundary. Your one thing this week? Pick one inbox. Just one. Set up the structured output schema, wire the confidence gate at 0.78, add the deterministic overrides for high-risk keywords, and route everything below the threshold to a needs human table. Don't try to cover all 3 inboxes on day 1. Get one working. Tune the threshold on your own data, then expand. The Intake Desk starter pack is on the resources page. JSON schema, confidence rubric, and the Slack alert template. Copy, paste, ship. I'm Jordan. This is Headcount 0. Go build it.